Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the podcast. And as you can see from this intro, this one's a little bit different. So on this month's episode, I speak to a guy called Tom. Now, Tom is an air conditioning engineer from near London, and he's come on today to talk about his story and what's happened in his life so far. I'd like to just warn you that there is things that we talk about that you may have been affected by in your life. So this is a bit of a trigger warning. If there is anything that we speak about in this episode that you have been through and you would like help with that, please see the contact details below. Please reach out if you feel like you need a bit of help and support. There's people out there that are willing to listen to what you have to say, and they are wanting to help you too. So on this episode, I'll be speaking to Tom about his early life, his life before he got into air conditioning, his life within air conditioning, and now afterwards, and what he gets up to. And as you might have guessed, I'm not at home or in the studio. I'm actually out on one of these little bikes, look. And I'm at a local skate park near me. And Tom rides BMX to quite in fact, a very high standard, way higher than I ever could. And I used to ride BMXs, well, maybe till about 10 years ago. And then sort of life got in the way. But if you're watching this, please stay tuned in, listen to what Tom has to say, because it's an amazing episode. And remember to please reach out if you do feel like you need a bit of help and support. And this is your sign to go and do something that you used to do when you were a kid, but then life got in the way and you stopped doing it. So whether for me it's BMXing, or whether it's for you it's football, tennis, rugby, whatever it is, whatever sport you used to do when you were younger, or activity that you used to get up to and you used to really enjoy it, but then life got in the way, this is your sign to go and do it. But for now, please enjoy the episode. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the MYH podcast. And on today's episode, I'm very pleased to say I've got another Southerner on here. There seems to be a collection of them now that are coming on it. But Tom's come all the way from the Big Smoke today, and he's come to tell his story. So Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's all right. Thanks for making the journey up this morning. You made it out the M25, all right?
Using Google Maps.
But no, thanks again for coming up today to come and do an episode with us. But for people that don't know Tom is an air conditioning engineer. Is that the right terminology for it?
That is indeed, yeah, air conditioning engineer. Work on bits of ventilation, things like that as well. But yeah, mostly stick to the AC stuff.
Yeah, I bet you've been busy with the heat wave that we've had the past couple of weeks.
It was a nightmare. It was really bad. It was just that thing of like, you'd be on your way home. Like I normally leave site at 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'd leave at 5, don't get home till late. But 5:30 you get a call. We've got a leak, or the AC's gone down. Can you get there? And you think, well, I kind of want more work afterwards. So you go anyway. But yeah, it was a couple of long days. I did an install in that heat as well.
Not good.
Above a swimming pool, like a void of a swimming pool ceiling, and just like the humidity from that.
Yeah.
The sun beating down on the tin roof, and it was just it was
pain.
Not fun.
I think you sent us, or seen you put on your Instagram story that you were up on a roof a couple of weeks ago doing that one.
That was it. Yeah, all the tray work and stuff. Yeah, and it was like the temperature of the roof was like close to 50 degrees. So it was like trying to have like knee pads on so you don't burn your knees. And and then you've got lugging all the tools up there, working in a plant room upstairs. It was just
thinking, did I make the right career choice?
Yeah, you're like, no, I didn't.
So, how long have you been doing air conditioning?
So how old was I when I first started? So 17. Yeah, so probably about 14, 15 years, something like that. Yeah.
And you've recently gone on your own now?
Yeah, so I went on mine in December, which was, it was a bit of a tough jump really.
Yeah.
Like kind of got sort of forced into it a little bit. So somebody I know, they sort of offered me a better position, which I took. And then sort of like I had a really bad knee injury, so now I couldn't go back there. And then because obviously now running a business myself, I understand the liability and all that stuff that comes with it. You can't have people on site that if they have an accident or so I ended up just taking the jump on my own. So just
enjoying it,
putting a knee brace on and getting on with it. I'm enjoying it. It's well stressful. Like, I feel a lot, you know, people that say the first couple of years the hardest years, I totally agree. Like, I didn't think it would be like this. But, you know, the work's coming in, so it's all good.
Like, that's it. As long as you're busy and you're looking after yourself and you're setting boundaries for yourself, sometimes it's very difficult. Like you said before, you're getting that phone call at 5:05 when you should be out the door and heading home, and somebody saying, "Oh, can you just come and fix this?" And when you're a new business, you think, "I need to get my name out there, and I need to build that." It can be very difficult to turn work down.
Yeah, and it's that cash flows thing as well. It's like, you know, like when you first start, like I didn't have a loan, I didn't have, you know, I relied on savings and trying to like claw bits from where I could, and it's like that thing of, right, if I don't go there, how am I going to make it through the next month, kind of thing. That's how I was looking at it. Yeah. But then it doesn't switch off either.
No. My next question to you was, how are you coping with it?
Tough.
In more than just a sense of the cash flow element side of things.
Yeah, well tough. Like, just not so much the work side of it, because, like, you know, you go on site or you go to wherever you go and do your day. But then it's more the fact of you're driving home and you're thinking, oh, did I do this? Or how am I going to get around this problem? And then you get home and my fiance's at home, and then I'm like, oh, I've just got to get on the laptop quick. Just send invoices or do quotes, and next thing you know, 5 hours is gone. Yeah. And it's like, keeps just going and going and going every day.
Are you starting to notice that's having an effect on you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like, you know, my missus, she says, like, you talk about work all the time. Yeah. Like, just switch off. And you're like, it's all right you saying that. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't, because just worry. Yeah. And I'm an overthinker anyway. Like, I'm just, every time I walk out off site, I'm like, oh, how am I going to do that? Or, you know, sort of, did I do this? Did I do that? And it's, definitely plays on my mind a lot.
Is it keeping you awake?
Yeah, quite. Like, more the fact of, like, it just doesn't switch off. Yeah. You know, like, I'm in late at night, up, you know, early in the morning. So, it's... Yeah, go. That little bit of sleep is like, it's just the only peace you get.
Outside of work, I guess, have you noticed that you're not doing? So we've been chatting before we started doing this. We've both got a passion for BMXing and stuff, and you're obviously quite big in the scene on that side of things. Have you noticed that starting to slip more?
100%. But I think it's more, not so much the fact that it's not so much the fact of like, I'm letting it slip. It's more the fact that the time isn't there. So, like, you know, when I was employed, I'd get home at, you know, 5:30, 6, have a couple of hours to go out, or, you know, you wasn't doing weekends, so you just go on a trip somewhere, or, you know, go to a contest, have holiday. That's the bit that I miss, is like the sort of, you know, getting home and then getting excited to go out riding. Yeah. And it's a bit of a weird passion. Like, it's, you know, kind of like, keeps me, you know, sort of happy. Yeah. You know, the memories and stuff. So when I see it starting to drop off like it is now, it definitely brings me down a lot more. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Is it? So I guess that obviously with everything that's going on and things like that, do you feel that this is a big turning point in your life? And well, do you feel like you're turning into an adult?
Yeah, that's literally it. Yeah. So it's like, you know, leaving the bit, like, you know, I'm still riding at like, you know, obviously I've got so many injuries like in the past that are playing up, but I still go out and ride. I still make a habit of going out, having fun, shooting photos, doing whatever. Yeah. And it's definitely the point of when I've got other friends who have started a business or they've gone on their own ventures, doing whatever, and they say, oh yeah, I don't really ride no more, like I've got no time for it. Yeah. And I thought, that'll never be me. Yeah. And now it is me. Yeah. And I'm like trying to cling on to it for dear life.
I fell into that trap, and then I went down the route of like doing road cycling and mountain biking, but even that's fallen by the wayside because just life gets in the way, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's not even just work either. It's like, you know, I love spending time with my missus. Like, we go everywhere together. We're like best mates. So she's really good to have around. But even that, you know, like, you organise days out and, you know, you go and see friends and things like that, and then all of a sudden the weekend's gone and you're back to Monday again.
Do you feel it's a bit of eat, sleep, rave, repeat, or is it just grinding out, do you think?
Just, wearing down, I think.
Is it wearing down?
That's mostly what it is.
And it's starting, I guess you're getting to the point now where you're actually physically starting to realise that you need to start looking after yourself a bit better, because has there been moments in your life where you weren't looking after yourself and letting like your mental health slip and just the way you are with yourself slip?
So probably the past 5 years, it's got well bad. Like growing up, because I had I had so much go on that it was just like I didn't think about it. Like it was just in the back of my mind. And then I went through a breakup with an ex, and it was a long-term relationship, like all that sort of thing. And yeah, it just went absolutely to bits. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, everything just comes crashing down. Yeah. And it's just like, you don't know where to turn. Yeah. You're sort of like, I can't go to my mates about it because I'll feel embarrassed, or I'll feel like they're going to judge me or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you're just there on your own, in your own little. Like I was in my van I couldn't go back to my mum's house because she had someone staying there, so I couldn't, obviously broke up with the ex-missus, couldn't go there. Didn't want to go to my friends for help because I didn't want them to know. Yeah. So I was like checking into hotels, sleeping in the van, all that stuff.
So it actually got to a point where you were physically homeless.
Yes, I was. Yeah, and none of my mates really knew. One of my friends, Bill, he's known him since I started riding. I met him when he was 13. So for the past sort of 15, 20 years. Yeah. He's been around, and I stayed on his sofa a few times and went out riding, had beers, talked about it a little bit. Nothing crazy though, but yeah, it was essentially, I was on a Friday night when paydays, so I used to get paid fortnightly, so it was every fortnight or every week I used to right, I'm gonna go into a hotel, and it was showering in leisure centres, and yeah, it was tough, man. Yeah. It was well tough, and not a lot of people know, and not a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people go through it. Yeah. But probably not a lot of people know that they do,
That's the thing, isn't it? Because we go to work or you go riding or you do whatever, people never know what somebody's going through, never know what's happening in their life and how much of a huge impact that particular thing. So for you, it's a breakdown of a relationship was the beginning of what you perceived was your mental health journey, would you say?
I would have thought that was the thing. It wasn't the beginning. It was definitely the thing that tipped me over the edge. Right, okay. So it wasn't I had so much stuff up until then, and then stuff afterwards that made it worse. Right, okay. So it was that was the point where it was I felt like nothing was going to get any better. Yeah. Basically, I felt like nothing was going to help me at that point.
So do you think when you were younger than was the things that had gone on in your life previously that have caused you to? Was it depression or was it anxiety that you suffered with, or was it something else?
So, going from the start, it's, from the age of from being born, I come from basically an estate in South London, single mum, 2 kids, going out street raking, going out just doing whatever, and going down a bit of a wrong path anyway. Yeah. But that was later on. But the first start of it was. It was fine up until, 6 or 7. Yeah. And then, we spoke about it before, but I went through child abuse as a kid. Right. I don't want to put it out there just because there's things going on and stuff like that. But just went through child abuse for 5 or 6 years, and that was you're at that age where I hadn't experienced anything like that before. Didn't know what it was, and it was now it all seems such a blur. Yeah. But at the time, you're scared. You don't really know what's going on. You don't want to tell your parents because you don't even know what's going on. Yeah, yeah. And that was probably what triggered what's happening now. Right. So from there, it was 5 years of all that stuff, and then nothing. So then when you're growing up, it's you've had this experience, this horrible, traumatic experience, to then nothing. Yeah. And you've got this image in your head, and you're what am I going to do? What do I do about it? So yeah, that was probably what's deep down is probably what's causing a lot of it. And I know other people go through it, but
see, I think that's one of the, not a misconception with mental health, but a lot of people think, well, what I've gone through is not as bad as what John down the road's gone through or whatever. And I think it's important for people to realise that it's massive in your world, no matter how big or how small it is. That doesn't really particularly matter. It's had a huge effect in your world, and that's why it needs to be understood and dealt with, and you need to do something. And for a long time, I used to think, yeah, but what I'm going through is nothing compared to whatever Tom's going through or whatever it might be. It used to put me off getting help.
Yeah. And it's like, no matter how small your problem is, like it could be financial, it could be family, it could be whatever. It could be the smallest problem in the world. It could be like, you know, you've dinged the side of your car, and it's like, no matter how small that problem is, it's just as big in everybody else. Yeah. So like it's just as big to me that I've been through this as, you know, you've lost a load of money, or
exactly
every problem is
relevant.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
That it's happening to. And so from the younger age up to about the age, about 15, something like that, you felt like you were starting to go down the wrong path then as you got older.
So age up to about, before teens, so like, sort of probably like between 6 and 8, and then obviously that traumatic stuff happened, and then after that it was sort of like I was sort of hanging about with the wrong crowd and doing things I shouldn't be doing at that age of 14, 15, 16, and then ended up finding a mate who rode BMX, and that's like
is that Bill that you talk about?
So I first met my friend. Everyone used to call him Divvy Dave, just because he was just like.
We all know a Divvy Dave.
Yeah, he was just really loose, and he was like really fun to have around. Bit of a donut, but everybody loved him. I met him, and then met my friend Bill through him. So, and then that's what spurred off all the BMXing really.
And then that
really pulled me out of it. Like it was either I'm gonna go down this wrong path and end up somewhere I shouldn't be, or I'm gonna take this path and have like the best time of my life. Yeah. Which is, luckily I chose that. Yeah.
And you've got to see all over the place and got to ride with some pretty cool people.
Travelled, met cool people, done really cool stuff. Like, like there's a lot of people that, like you say it and they go, oh, it's really cool. And you think like, it's part and parcel of it. Like, it all comes with it, Yeah. It's really cool.
Have you got like one outstanding? No, in fact, has there ever been a point? So say like you're at a competition or whatever. Have you ever had the moment where you think, I'm so glad I've done this because I could have been locked up. I could have been falling in that a gang culture, say.
And it would have gone down that point of like, going around, you get sort of like just the typical South London, like just not so much gangs, but people like stealing and going out, like nicking motorbikes, all that stuff. I could have gone down that path, and I'm so glad I never. But then, probably the moment, it was 2012, so it was a few years ago. But I got a phone call. So I used to ride for a guy called James Hitchcox, and he was like basically like my first sponsor. And he was like, oh, like I've got this gig for you. I can't really tell you what it is, but just head to this address, and just see how you get on. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, like try and do that. Yeah. I go down there, and it's it was the what do they call it? Like a casting for the opening ceremony for the 2012 Olympics.
Really?
Yeah. So when I was there, and I saw loads of people that I knew, and like all my friends have had that same conversation of, oh, I can't really tell you. Like, I'd ring someone up and be like, oh, what are you doing Saturday? And they're like, oh, I'm busy on Saturday. Yeah. Knowing where they're going. So, like, I get there, and it was sort of like all the people that you normally see at the contests or the jams, whatever, they're there. And I remember getting there, and within 10 minutes, I snapped my chain. And you know what a snap chain's like. Yeah. So I'm there, and I'm like, how am I going to get through this? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And they ended up having they had a big quarter pipe like transfer thing into a jump box, and I was going chainless, so I was like riding this like half pipe, gapping over into like a vert wall, like a big ramp, and then doing the tricks over the box that they asked for without a chain,
pumping it all the time,
without a chain, and mate ended up getting through, getting the gig, and I was like, mate, like done that with no change. Like, done that with like no way of getting yourself going, powered through, and then you think like all that effort that's gone into it has like paid off.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool experience.
Yeah.
And then that's when I knew, I was like, this is, it's not going to get any better than this, pretty much. That was sort of like my highlight.
Yeah.
You know.
So life was pretty good for you, and then at 2012, so you would have been just started in your career in the air conditioning unit, doing that sort of stuff.
So 2012, so 10 years ago. Yeah, I would have been a few years in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been about 3 or 4 years in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when it all started kicking off. But like going back to like the, you know, getting into the trade and stuff, it was, you know, again, I said like my mum was single mum, whatever, and I always wanted to be a BMXer. I know it's a bit BMX heavy at the minute.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted to be. I was like, I want to grow up and be like the guys on the videos, and whatever. My mum was sort of like that, you know, struggling for money, whatever. She's like, oh, you need to get a job, and you know, this isn't going to be a career. So, and she was like, I've got you a week's work with an air conditioning guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like, you know, and that's when you start putting your first bit of housekeeping.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. The guy that took me on, he's great. I see him the other day actually, and I was just lugging big nitrogen bottles up the stairs, up like scaffold stairs. Mate, I was doing that for so long, like carrying all the heavy stuff, and I was like, mate, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And he was basically just putting me through my paces to see whether I could handle it.
See how long it took to break you.
But then after that, it was sweet. Yeah, it was fine. So yeah, got the apprenticeship, and went from there.
Never looked back since.
Never looked back.
Loving the life.
Yeah.
But well, I suppose that life became working and trying to find the balance of BMX and outside of life, and then the relationship broke down. And did your mental health come to the forefront of your mind again?
Yeah. So through growing up, like I used to be, like when I got sort of not serious about BMXing, but like, you know, I'd start traveling, going to contests, like meeting new people, like my best friends who have come from that. When I was doing it, was pushed right back. It was like, I can't say nothing. Yeah. Because it's quite, at that time, like now there's a lot of females. Yeah. Which is great. I love it that the females get an opportunity to do stuff. And it's sick seeing it. Like I know a few of them and they're great. And then it was like quite, at that time, it was like a male sort of dominated. Yeah. Like you saw the odd sort of female riding or anything like that, but it was genuinely a male dominated thing. And coming out with that stuff, do you imagine at that time? And it was a pretty tough, where I grew up in Romford, like where the skate park used to go to in Romford. It was pretty tough to grow up there. There was a lot of like, you know, there was a lot of banter, but it was like pretty tough banter. It wasn't just like the typical. It was like pretty rough.
Did you think? Was there ever a point where you thought, I can't concentrate on what I'm doing here because I just don't feel right. I'm not in the right space for this.
Well, that's where, like, you know, it was between the age of, you know, 21 and, well, probably between the age of 18 and 25. It was like, for me, it was party time. Just alcohol, like that was it. But it was like, I was just not, like, I was just going out Friday to Sunday. You know, and then every time you go away, it'd be like, you know, drinking every night, whatever, that sort of, that lifestyle.
I think looking back on it now, you may be using it to suppress or hide what you were going through.
100%. Yeah, it was definitely a blocker. It was like, you know, if I like go out, keep myself busy, and then just get hammered drunk, like, like I wouldn't have to talk about it. Yeah. And then, like when you said about like that first relationship breaking down, it was like that's the thing that went just like set the bomb off. Yeah, you know, and that was like the worst thing probably.
What would you say the whatever you're comfortable talking about? But would you say the homeless bit was probably the lowest point that you had?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was like the lowest point. Like, you know, I thought about like, I mean, I just did that interview, and then I'm sure you get a chance to read it. But yeah, there was just a point where it was like, mate, I was just ready to top myself. Like it got that bad. Like I'm not even joking.
You got to the point of suicidal thoughts, intrusive thoughts.
And then basically I was like, I mean, I'm assuming people who have felt that way have done it. But you go on Google and you're like searching through, and I found this website, and it was like basically they're not going to try and stop you. They're going to help you get to that final point.
Right.
Basically, I can't remember the website, but I found it on Google. It was like some weird website where it was like telling you about all these different things.
So it was like a pro suicide.
Yeah.
Was?
Well, not pro, but it was sort of like, you know, if you've got to that point, like, you know, we're gonna sort of tell you what's gonna happen.
Right. Okay.
More like an informative thing.
Right. Okay.
And then I clicked on like a link on there, and it was like, if you're reading this, like, you're not ready, basically.
Right.
It was like a link to their thing, and it was like, call Samaritans or
Yeah.
whoever's, you know, they give all the numbers out.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you mean. Yeah.
So it wasn't like a pro
Yeah.
suicide
Right.
thing.
Okay,
It
yeah.
wasn't like, oh, here's how you do it.
Yeah.
You should go and do it. It wasn't like that. It was like, you know, if you click this link, and it was like, look, you're obviously not ready if you're at this page.
Yeah.
So here's all the information you need.
Right.
For,
Okay.
for your help. And then when I found that, it was like, okay, like, let's reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, let's take a minute to have a think, and let's reel it in just for a minute, just to contemplate what's going on.
Did you at that point? Did you reach out for help off anybody?
Nah, never. I've never reached out. Like, the first time I reached out was to my now fiance at the time. Yeah, to my now fiance. So that was when I'm 33 now. That was 28.
Right.
Was the first time I ever spoke about any sort of troubles that I had. Not even like mental health.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm going to, like, you know, I ended up breaking down in tears in front of her. I'd only been going out of her for like 6 months or something. It wasn't even that long, you know. And I just felt stupid. I was like, oh man, what am I doing? And she's like, no, it's cool. Don't worry about it. She's had her own dealings with mental health, so she kind of understood. It was probably the best person I could have spoke to. So yeah, after that, it was like.
Do you feel like it became a bit easier after?
100%. I find it easier talking to strangers.
Yeah, because they're not in that inner circle. And
they've not got that emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So there's times where I've been like out of, you know, going to a festival or whatever, and you do the things you do at a festival, like, not anymore. Like, this was at like my lowest point. I was just going out, just getting hammered, basically.
Yeah.
And mate, you speak to like strangers, and they're just cool about it. And they like give you advice, and you know, I found that was my sort of bit of therapy.
Yeah.
You know, but it's obviously not like
Yeah.
getting it sorted. You know,
the thing is that you're talking about it, and a lot of it is getting it off your chest, because it's sat or in your head or wherever it is. It's sat on you, constantly chewing it up. And if you're talking with people, you're releasing a bit of that pressure.
And it's like a constant panic. It's like, well, it would be probably classed as anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like you're all the time.
Yeah.
It's like a panic all the time.
Do you feel as well, you know, like when you first started talking about it, you know, like people call it beer fear, don't they? When you've been drunk and you think, what have I said to that person, like your friends and stuff like that. Do you ever have the moments where you think, I shouldn't have told them that, I shouldn't have told them that, I shouldn't have told them that?
Not that I shouldn't have told them that, but I would apologise for telling them that.
Right, okay.
Like, look, I'm sorry for dragging you into it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you've got really good mates, if you've got like your ride or die mates, they will listen, and they will be like, it's cool, man, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Chat to me anytime.
And that, once you started talking about it and you started to build up a bit more confidence, and did you start to notice the difference in friends and family and stuff? In what I mean by that is like, were people acting differently around you once you started talking about your mental health, or were they all positive for you?
So a lot of people would be, mate, they'd be there for me anytime. Like, as I said, my friend Bill is like, I class him as my best mate. And he's like, look, ring me anytime.
Yeah.
Day or night. So like, every time I feel like shit, basically, like anytime I feel bad, I'm on the phone to him, or I've got close with like another couple of guys, like this guy Jack and Will, and they're in the AC trade.
Right.
So like, if any time I've got a problem, or I'm overthinking stuff, or you know, I just generally feel bad, I can ring them and be like, look, man, like, this isn't going right, and you know, they talk you through it. Yeah. You know, so it's really nice to have that outreach of people. Yeah, definitely.
And then I'll put a link, or we'll pop something up to show you that you actually got interviewed by Ride magazine, didn't you?
Yeah. That was a really cool experience. Was
actually.
It? Yeah.
Was that the first time you started talking really openly and publicly about?
That's the first time. So that interview came out the 31st. Is it 31st? End of what week? September, yeah. End of October it came out. Right. Or was it October? Oh, it might have been July. I can't remember. But it's
so
like
the interview during October, and then it came out.
Yeah. So I had a few. I probably had about a month maybe a little bit longer to shoot it. Yeah, it was like the first time I've ever gone that deep in public. Like, you know, only a handful of my friends like know what I'd been through before that.
Yeah.
So like I could count them on my fingers. You know.
Yeah.
So it was that thing of coming out with that was probably the scariest thing, I feel like, because you're going out to an audience. It's not just your mates. I think it's one, it's amazing that you did that, and two, I think it's a positive sign that you were ready to talk about it, and you would accept it. Do you think it was an acceptance of having mental health that you were ready to talk about it? Yeah, and it's like in that interview, it's. I specifically said so my friend Robin came over from Portugal and he interviewed me on the camera talking about things. He had some questions, and I just said to him like, look, this is not a sob story. This is not sympathy. This is not whatever. You know, I was like, I'm doing this to try and help people. Yeah. You know, because I disguised it growing up, and I don't want other people to do that. Yeah, yeah. And I think that was what I've had some pretty good feedback. I was going to say to you, what's the feedback been like? Yeah, really positive. And now I've had like other friends who like, I'm not going to name them, whatever, but they've come to me and said like, look, man, I'm feeling really like I don't know what's wrong. Yeah. But there's something wrong. Yeah. And I try and sort of not dig too deep, but I'm like, oh, well, what makes you try and feel this way, or you know, and try and be like a little bit of what I needed. Yeah. So for them, like, and then again, like, they say, oh man, like, I feel like such an idiot talking about it, and mate, don't feel like an idiot. Yeah. Like, the worst thing you can do is feel like an idiot. Yeah. Because we're all here, like, you know, and that's what I want to achieve. Is like I want people to just be happy. Yeah. You know, because now, like, don't get me wrong, I've still got my fair share of things. Yeah. But I'm a lot happier in myself. I'm not have this guard up anymore. Yeah. Which is good. Yeah, because I was going to say to you, how does it affect you now on your day-to-day, week-to-week basis, your mental health? So it does still affect me. Like I will say I'm a big overthinker with stuff. You know, I take things a little bit too literal, if that makes sense. Yeah. You know, like sort of, you know, when I look at something, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And like, how's this going to go? And so now it's got a lot better than it was, like the mental health side of things. Yeah. You say earlier on in the interview that you're a massive overthinker. Do you still have to like check in with yourself and say, stop it, you're overthinking this, you're doing this? That's where I've got my missus. Yeah. My missus is like, right, take a step back. Yeah. Look at what you can control. Yeah. So like, you know, say if I'm on an install or whatever. Yeah, yeah. I'll be in like a panic, or, you know, like I'll come up against something I haven't seen before, or take a step back. Yeah. And I have to have that chat with myself, or you know, or my missus or whoever, have that chat and say, right, let's just take it back a minute. Yeah. And that's when you sort of level yourself out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I do try and check in with myself and just be like, right, what can you do? What can't you do? What's out of your control? So that's. Do you find that keeps everything on the balance and taking that time, and I guess it's keeping you being you. You've learned to accept that, because I think a lot of people with mental health, they think like you talked about knee injury before. So you have your knee injury, you go to the physiotherapist, you get that done, and you feel like it's dealt with, and that's done. You're over that injury, you get back on your bike and riding again. But I think with mental health, it's not a journey like that, is it? It's not like I've had 10 sessions of therapy, right, I've completed mental health. Yeah. It becomes a lifestyle, I think, or part of your lifestyle. Would you say that's a true statement? Yeah, 100%. You know, like you break a bone, it's better in 8 to 12 weeks. Yeah. And you're good to go. Yeah. But with your mental health, it can, I don't know whether you've experienced it, but like, you know, I'll be fine for, you know, day, 2, 3 days, and then bang. Yeah. It's there. Like, I've not even thought about it. Yeah. And it's just popped in my head. And I don't know what that is. Like, as I said, like, you know, I haven't gone and seek like professional help yet or anything like that. But it's just there. Yeah. It pops in. Yeah. Like, where has this come from? Why am I thinking about it? And I have no idea. Do you feel like you can cope with it a bit better now that you've got
things in place that are in your life. So your fiance, she's a massive part in your life, and she helps ground you and keeps you grounded. And if you hadn't had that, and you hadn't had the riding in your life, do you think it could have spiraled in a different direction, and you could have maybe, like you've seen, you had suicidal thoughts before, that it could have taken it to the next level?
Yeah, definitely, mate. It got to that point, like we spoke about earlier, mate. It did get there. It was like, dude, it was pretty thin line, you know, treading on thin ice for sure. And but now, obviously, you know, fiance's great, work's going relatively good. You know, like obviously I'm still building, trying to get the ball rolling. So it's like it's getting better. Yeah, you know, good. And I feel like the next step is to get help, like professional help. Yeah. You know, because you can only cure so much by yourself. Yeah, and so
and as well, like when a lot of the time when I do stuff with people, or I've been and had bits of stuff, and I'm like, why didn't I think of that? It's just sometimes having that somebody to point out the obvious, which can help it to you, and it helps with me. It clicks things in my mind. I think that's why. Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm feeling like that. That's why it's like that, and it's nothing to do with X, Y, Z, whatever, because you catastrophize things in your own head, don't you?
Like you end up, like as you said, you end up just spiraling. Yeah. Like one thing goes wrong, and then the next thing goes wrong, and then all of a sudden, you're in like a whirlwind of disaster. Yeah. For no reason, for things that you can't even control.
Exactly.
So.
But mate, it's phenomenal to hear that you've had everything that you've been through from being really young to being sort of 15, 16 years old, and then going through that journey in your 18 to 20s, and now you're out the other side of it.
Yeah, and it's been like a step by step. You know, I've taken it like, I see my life as stages. You know, like it was good up until a point, and then it was really bad, and then it was like kind of okay, and then the BMX came in, and it was like really like exciting, and then now, as you said, becoming an adult, it's sort of starting to wind down, and it's sort of like, right, okay, this is where I've sort of really got to look after myself. Yeah. At some point, because I've seen the other side of it. You know, like I've seen like both my cousins, they were like my brothers, and they both killed themselves basically through
sorry to hear.
Through like it's cool. I mean, if we got time, absolutely, I'll tell you the story. Like so, my aunt, she sees me as like her third son now, because she's I couldn't imagine the stuff that she went through. Yeah. But basically, my cousin Jonathan, so he's the one that introduced me to skateboarding and music and all these crazy things like art, graffiti, like all this stuff as a kid. And he was like kind of like the cool cousin, you know, the guy you wanted to hang around with. He was like a semi-pro skater over in America. Really? Like, it was really cool, man. And I was going to see. I was meant to go to this was when I was in like my really bad stage of like breaking up and all that, and I planned to go and see do you know like Corrupt FM? They're like this sort of, they're like a garage. No. They make a show called People Just Do Nothing. Right. Okay. And they're sort of like based on like garage MCs. It's it's like they're comedians, but they also like do garage music, and it's really cool. But I went to go and see a gig, and everybody blew out on me, so I was like, I'm just gonna go on my own. Yeah. I'm just gonna go and get hammered, go see him. And my mum rang me out, and she was like, can you go and check in on your cousin, because he's, you know, your aunt says he don't feel well and he might need to go to the doctors. And I was like, yeah, like, of course. And I knew at this time, since he was 20, probably 21, 22, he's been addicted to heroin, like forever, but like functioning. He's a barber, he's been a Ducati motorcycle mechanic, he's been a DJ, he's done like the lot. So I went to his apartment, it was my aunt's flat at the time. I go in there, no one in there. I was just like, what is going on? Like, she said he was here. Like, you know, the door was unlocked. So I was like, you know, whatever. And then I was sort of like looking around. I thought, I'm just going to use the loo before I go. Door was locked. And I was like trying to like, you know, like when you get a glass to a wall, I was like trying to like listen through the wall. And then it just heard like heavy breathing, moaning. So I ended up booting the door in.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
Something did go wrong.
I don't know.
Siri's got a mind of its own. Siri's excited about this story. Don't worry about it, man. It's sweet. So I go in through the door, and he's just like lying there. Like basically, the setup was you go in the door, toilet on the left, sink on the right, and it's just like a tiny little toilet room basically. And he's just like lying on the floor, trousers down, needle pretty much like in his thigh, just like mental, like eyes rolled back, and I was just like, oh mate, what is going on? So I like took needle out, put it in his bag, pushed his bag to the side, and it was like no consciousness. There was like movement, but there was no. I mean, I've never done anything like that, so I don't know what the experience is like. But mate, he just, I think it was on purpose, like to be honest, because he didn't want anybody knowing, you know, things like that. But mate, I had to give him CPR for 45 minutes before the ambulance got there. God. Mate, he was probably like already dead within like, you know, probably like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was trying to like give him water, and he was like throwing up loads. He like, you know, soiled himself, wet himself.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I'm trying to give him CPR mouth to mouth with like a towel over his mouth because there was just so much going on. So traumatic, man. Like, I don't know how I got through it. Like, to be honest, it was so bad.
I was going to say to you, have you ever spoke to anybody about that?
Not professionally.
No.
Nah, only like, you know, a few of my friends who, like, you know, I've had a few friends that have, you know, gone down that, not that part, the extreme path, but people who are dabbling in certain things, and I'm like, look, man, like, I've seen that side of it, and it's not good.
For after that, I guess, how did you feel about that afterwards?
Well, it's funny you say that. So it's the ambulance get there, and they said, like, look, any OD patients, usually, if they're looking to go to the end of the road, unless you're there, unless the ambulance is there, or they're in a hospital, like, there's a slim chance of survival. So they're like, look, it's great that you did that, and it wasn't a waste of time because there could have been something that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, he died. So he died there and then. They had to sort out coroners and people picking up the body, and you know, my aunt come round, and it was just such a traumatic experience for the family. After that, I had to go and get blood tests, STI check, because obviously, you know, I didn't know whether they were clean needles, dirty needles, whether he was using with other people. It was like such a weird experience going to get all that done. Like, lucky enough, everything was all cool. And then I went round. My aunt was like, oh, I can't really like go to his flat and clear out his stuff. It's too soon.
Too much. Yeah.
So I said, look, I'll take the van. I'll go and clear his flat out, which was in Deptford, down in South London. And I get there, and I'm getting his stuff. Like, I'm like, he had a Mac and you know, personal belongings, all the clothes. And I found his suitcase, and it was like stuffed down the side between the wardrobe and the wall. So I pulled out his suitcase, and I was like, what is in that? Opened it up, mate. There was just bags and bags and bags of needles. Like, I'm talking like a carry-on suitcase, not just like a little gym bag. It was like a suitcase. So I had to take them to, you know, the hospital, or and just try and, try and dispose of them as I could, you know. So yeah, after that it was pretty
full on. Yeah,
mostly because you're dealing with other people's stuff.
Yeah,
you're dealing with family and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's, after that, it was, I should have got help, really. My mum always says. Do
you think that had played a significant part in the journey that you went on with your mental health after that?
Yeah.
Was that after
that was
the breakup?
After the breakup, yeah.
Yeah. So you were already low.
I was so low, man. And then that happened. And you know what is, like, in between that time of me feeling like I was gonna go the one-way ticket. Yeah. After seeing that, I was like, there's no way. I was like, it is way too short. He was like 38.
Yeah.
38, man. And you're like, killing yourself. It's it's not insane. It's like, when you've been on that side, it seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
But for anybody out there, it's not a good idea. Just go get the help you need, for at least try.
Yeah.
And take that first step, you know, of just like, right, okay, this is what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because I've seen the other side of it, and it's not nice.
I think as difficult as it was to deal with that situation, and as sad as it was, in a way, it saved your life.
100%. Saved my life, mate. Because otherwise, I would have got, you know, maybe took too many drugs at a party, or you know, like that sort of thing. Because I was like trying to cheer myself up however I could.
Yeah.
So for me, it could have ended really bad. Yeah. But seeing that, really sort of opened my eyes to how precious it is. Even though I feel you know, pretty down a lot of the time, it's way better than how I was feeling before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me.
I think as well, for me, when I start to feel down, I sort of lean into it and have a day or so where, but I don't let it go longer than a day. And then I'll bring myself out around it. And when I do get back up to a good place, I appreciate it a lot more.
But do you take like, say if you're feeling like bad, do you take like a day off work, or do you do it over a weekend, or do you take yourself out of a situation, or
so
like how, like, because I'm trying to figure out, not a lot of people have been through the stuff that I've been through. So for me to sort of talk to other people about how they're feeling, it's quite hard to relate, because they, as you said before, their problems they think is a lot smaller, which is not the case. I just need some sort of advice.
Well, for me, I used to totally ignore it. So I used to go to work, and I used to be in work, and I used to put this act on that I was happy-go-lucky Rob, and we'll have the crack, and we'll get stuff done, and come on, let's get stuck in. And I piled myself into work. I used to overwork.
Right.
And I used to never want to go home and things like that, because I was trying to ignore what was going on.
But would it be like staying late on site, or would it be get home and do your paperwork, or all the materials?
I wouldn't.
You'd just be on site all the time?
I'll be on site, and I did a job in North Wales, and the security guy came to me, because I used to work on big commercial sites, so like the big tower crane type of jobs. And the security guard used to come up to me and went, mate, you can stay here all night if you want for me, but I'm locking up, and when I lock up, you won't be able to get off.
Yeah. You're stuck there.
I'm stuck there, so I was like, right. And then I used to get out, drive to wherever, because I used to drive everywhere. Work used to say to me, we'll put you up wherever you want. Yeah. And I used to choose not to, because I didn't want to be, I don't know, it was like I didn't want to be in that room, in that hotel room on my own. Yeah. And not that I never got to the point with suicidal intrusive thoughts. I just turned into a miserable bastard.
Right, okay.
but because I wasn't understanding what I was feeling, I didn't know how to cope with it. Yeah. And then
it's the only way you can take it out, isn't it? Like, it's the only way you can release that sort of aggression or feeling.
And I used to be horrible to my wife. She left me for a little bit because of the way I was. And I used to drive home. I'd either drive erratically, like really fast, or I'd be just driving Miss Daisy and make the journey drag out. And then I'd get home and I'd sit on the drive for an hour.
I was just about to bring this up. That is so weird you just said that.
And I'd sit on the drive and I wouldn't get out my van. Yeah. And Lou would text me saying, are you coming in? And I'd ignore it. And it's because I didn't want to deal with it. Because I think I knew I'd get in there and I'd start having a go. So one of the things I struggle with, and I still struggle with it now, is the kids. Not that I don't love my kids, but they can send me from 0 to 300 mile an hour in an instance like that. And it's because I struggle to... Louise is so calm with them. She's so under control with it all, and I just lose my shit with them. Yeah. Yeah. I do, and it's...
Is it because you've got a short fuse, or is it just because, like, it's just how it is sometimes?
I think I've got a short fuse with them, and I'm way better than I used to be, but, like, I don't know, because I can't control the situation, and I can't get them to count. Say, if, like, erratically when they go to bed, and they're just screaming because they don't want to go to bed, they want to stay up, and they're all... Yeah. I've got 3 boys, and they're all the sort of same 6, 4, and 2, so they're all similar ages or close together, and they bounce off each other's energy, and I'm like, get to sleep. You need to get to sleep. Yeah. I'm getting wound up and built up, and then they're...
Because you should be going to bed, but you're not.
Yeah, and they're feeding off my energy that I'm wound up, and then they're getting whiny with me, and then Louise comes in, and it's like, why won't you do that for me? Yeah. but
I suppose it's part and parcel of having kids. I don't know, because I haven't got kids.
But it is exactly that. It is part and parcel of having kids, and I have to, like, take myself out of the room. I'll go and have a minute and come back in and go, right, let's get into bed and let's read a story and blah, blah, blah. And we go again.
Just a little reset.
Yeah, like, it is exactly like a reset. And like, going back to the question you asked us before that, before I used to totally ignore it, not do anything with it, try and used to fight the emotion and not show any emotion whatsoever and push it down, and ultimately that just compounded the problem. Whereas now, I'm really open and honest with it. Yeah. I'll cry in front of the kids if I need to cry. Yeah. I'll cry on camera. I did a reel the other day about my mum dying, and because I was jointing a mum.
Mate, that hit me so hard, man, when I saw that. I messed it a lot. I left the thing on there. I was just like, it's so good of you to do that.
It's because
to just get it out there.
And that's exactly it. And it's to let people know that we can all show this emotion.
Okay. Yeah.
It is okay. We can have whatever your backstory is and whatever you've been through and whatever turmoil has affected your life. It does always get better. You may never feel like it gets better, but it does get better, and we can show this emotion, and we can do what we need to do for us, whether that be cry or whether that be smash a brick on the floor.
Going to the gym.
Going to the gym.
Doing
go out,
your outlet.
Your outlet, whatever it is. But at the same time, we can still do our day-to-day job. We can still be that person that people depend on.
Yeah.
And be that strong person. And that's what I do with it now. I have the emotion. So crying, for instance, when I was jointing that wall up, I cried for 5 minutes, something like that. I carried on. I was just jointing away, crying, and the tears were running down my face. And then I felt better for it.
Yeah.
And that sort of tension and emotion had gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to carry on with my day. It allowed me to deal with the day what was going on. I was doing a particular job that I didn't want to do because it was up some rickety scaffolding that I'm working off, snagging the last little bits to get this job over the line. I'm like working on my own as well, and it was just a big emotion, a wave of emotion that came over to me, and it just showed itself in crying.
But imagine you like try and hold that in because you're on site with the boys or whatever.
And that's
the next thing you know, you're driving home and you're probably worse than what you would have been dealing with it then and there. And that's
exactly what I used to do. And now, with the way that I do things now and the way that I look after myself now, I find, do you know what? They may laugh at me, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I feel okay for it.
Exactly. Like, and half of them people, like, I think for me, social media plays a big part of it because I try and compare myself to other people, and it's such a bad trait to have. Yeah, she's like, why do you give a shit?
Yeah,
like, why do you care?
It can.
I'm like, you know what? I have no idea. I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
You know, but when you sit on the driveway, so like with my previous relationship, I would park around the corner. And I'd be in the van for an hour, 2 hours, however long it took for me to be like, I better go in now.
Yeah.
And the rule with my missus now, she's like, I told her like, whatever in the past, and she's like, if it ever gets to that point where you're sitting around the corner, having a coffee, not wanting to come home, she's like, we got to talk.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, that's the downhill spiral of a relationship.
Yeah.
So anytime. I've never had that again. So
sounds like you got a good egg there.
Oh yeah, she's great, man. She gets a little mention in the interview. She's all right.
She's done all right.
Yeah. But the thing is, I go places like to jams or skate parks, whatever. And instead of like the boys coming up to me, they go, "Oh, you alright, Chrissy?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What? this is happening." Yeah, she's the crowd favourite.
There you go.
When it comes to when it comes to going places, so she's cool.
Well, you'll have to let her know that. But
yeah,
no, thank you very much for coming on and talking, and thank you for being so open and honest with everything. And if anybody has been affected by anything that we spoke about on this episode, there'll be all the links in the description below where you can get help. And if you are at that point where you are having suicidal thoughts, please reach out. There is people out there that are willing to listen to what you have to say, and no matter how deep or dark the situation is, it always gets better, and there's always a solution. You may never feel like it gets better or it's going to get better, but Tom is here proof that it does. You can turn it round. So look after yourself, take it easy, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot, mate. You've done it. Well done. Yay. Yes. You can relax now.
Yeah.